Right, and the number of participants has gone up a lot. So welcome everybody who are coming in externally. This is a webinar on undergraduate research at Rensselaer. My name is Robert Hull. I'm our acting vice president for research at Rensselaer. I'm going to introduce my colleagues. We have 3 faculty and 3 undergraduate students currently doing research who've joined us. Our faculty are Kristen Bennett from mathematics, Dan Lewis from materials, Kathy Royer from biology, and our students are Carlton Coffin from biology, Jose Figueroa from computer science, and Sabrina Rapacci from materials. So I'm just going to give like a 1-minute introduction to research, and particularly undergraduate research at Rensselaer. Then I will ask our faculty members and our students to introduce what they do for about 3 minutes each, and then we'll move on rapidly to what questions you have, is the main purpose of this presentation. So the research at Rensselaer is broken into 5 signature research thrusts: biotechnology and life sciences. And indeed, that is the COVID-19 virus. We have a lot of research going on focused on addressing the challenges it creates and on mitigating it. And you'll hear some of that research, I think, today. Energy, environment, and smart systems, which covers new energy solutions, new building modalities for future systems, and the infrastructure which connects it all. Nanotechnology and advanced materials, which is the stuff that creates the new technologies we all enjoy and yet to imagine in some cases. We have a very strong effort in computation, in data, in artificial intelligence, and we have some really fascinating things in media, art, sciences, and technology, a very bold new intersection between those different fields. So our undergraduates are intimately entwined into our research programs in any given semester, using in internal programs or in some cases external programs. We believe we have about 1,000 undergraduate students doing research in one form or another. And that about 40 to 50% of our undergraduate students, by the time they have graduated, have been involved in some form of undergraduate research experience at Rensselaer or elsewhere. And those experiences, those students are from all schools, from science, from engineering, from architecture, from management, and from the humanities, arts, and social sciences. Is something which the faculty are really excited to participate in with undergraduate researchers. And we hope by the end of this webinar, you'll have a good sense and a good taste for what it is. So now I'm just going to ask each of our faculty members first to introduce their research groups and their fields of research. I'm going to be a gentle time master, but we're going to keep this to about 3 minutes each. And then we'll move on to the stars of the show today, which are our undergraduate researchers. So Professor Bennett, would you start please by discussing the research you do in your group?
Hi, I'm Professor Bennett. I'm a professor of mathematical science, and I'm also the Associate Director of our Institute for Data Exploration and Application. And I run the Data Insight Lab, which is a lab that's really dedicated to providing undergraduate research experiences for undergrads, right? And what we do is we solve real problems using data for clients. And so I've had many students go through this. Today, they're going to post in the chat a link. We released a new app called COVID Minder that looks at the COVID epidemic and how your community affects that. So that's kind of an example of the kind of work that we're doing. And I hope, I think they're going to post it for me. Yeah. And then we've also made award-winning apps to look at causes of mortality for suicide and deaths of despair, it's called. So there's lots of opportunities to do research and to get involved. We emphasize early research and opportunity. You just need to take one class. So we have classes such as Introduction to Data Mathematics that teaches you mathematics and data analytics at the same time. And after you take that one class, you're eligible to do research and you can join the lab and participate. It's offered as classes, and also we offer individual experiences too.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bennett. And Professor Lewis, if I could ask you to go on deck next. Dan, I think you may be muted.
Okay, there we go. Got it. Sorry about that. I had a hard switch on my microphone. Okay, my name is Dan Lewis. I'm a material science and engineering professor. I'm, in spite of what I'm going to tell you is my research area, I'm not actually technically challenged. I'm interested in metallurgy of materials, and what that means is we're looking at advanced alloys, and we're looking at new ways to fabricate metallic materials that will improve different engineered systems. My particular interest area is in what's called microstructure of materials, and that's what's happening at length scales that are about a millionth of a meter. So it's, smaller than something you can hold in your hand comfortably, but larger than the distance between atomic individual atoms in a material. We work in casting, where we're interested in solidification. So if you're forming a material, a metallic material, you would melt it. It would re-solidify, and it would have some sort of millionth of a meter microstructure. And that's particularly important in areas like additive manufacturing, which right now people are using additive manufacturing to try and create complex shapes and geometries that give you all the benefits of a solid piece of material, but then all the benefits of something that's structured to be very lightweight. Another area we're working in is what I call machine learning for microstructure. And if you've ever heard someone say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, material scientists historically have taken these micrometer length scale photographs of material microstructure, and they might reduce that microstructure to just a few measurements. And maybe in the past, you'd get one number or two numbers out of that picture, and you'd use that to help develop your material. We're working on the principle that there's probably a lot of information present in those images, and what we're trying to do is use computer learning techniques, machine learning techniques to extract as much information as possible from those microstructures. And so that's just a brief summary of the kind of things I work on. Sabrina, who you're going to hear from later, has worked with me on some additive manufacturing projects. And so we look forward to answering your questions on those things a little bit later. Thanks. I think you're muted now, Robert.
Technically challenged. Thank you, Dan. So Professor Royer, if you could go on deck next. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're muted again.
Shows. Good job I got you here, Dan. Thank you. Thank you to my faculty colleagues, and that shows the just a microcosm of 3 faculty members there, the breadth of research at Rensselaer. But now we want to hear from our undergraduate students to say what they're doing in the lab and how they're enjoying it. So, Jose, if I could ask you to start off.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Jose. I'm a senior and a computer science major. And my research is actually currently under Professor Bennett. And I'm a member of IDEA, and a lot of my work has been with the applications she described, both Mortality Minder and COVID Minder. And I was responsible for a lot of like the front end stuff that you see. And it's been like a really cool opportunity because my concentration is in analytics and data, and like being able to take it from basically like the textbook sort of understanding of these like various paradigms and taking it to actual application based stuff, and on top of it working on really cool like cutting edge issues was just like a really fun experience. And it's definitely been a lot to talk about in interviews and things like that. Just been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And Sabrina, if I could ask you to describe your experience next.
Hi, my name's Sabrina. I'm also a senior. I'm a material science and engineering student. So as Professor Lewis mentioned, I've worked with him on the additive manufacturing, and I did I did a lot of the hands-on work where samples were made using this process, and I was working with the testing and analysis from both a microstructure and a macrostructure point of view. So I was looking at how this additive was affecting a material's surface on large scale and small scale. So I was able to use metallurgy and fractography. So looking at a sample's fracture surface under a microscope, taking images and being able to analyze what may have been the cause or some of the trends based on different additive processes. So I was able to look at it both from that point of view, and then also look at the microstructure of the material. And like Professor Lewis said, like that one picture is able to tell a lot based on what I've learned in
Great.
class,
Thank
and
you
be able
very
to see
much,
that
Sabrina. So
firsthand
Carlton, if
in
you could describe
research
your
was really
experience.
great, and
I'm a
help to
biochemistry
find that
biophysics
path
student.
between
I'm
what you're
also a
learning
senior,
and
and I've
what
been
you're
doing
supposed to get
research
out of the
RPI since
schooling
the
other
second
than
semester
just
of
a
my freshman
degree.
year. Because of my interest in research, I actually joined RPI because I was able to become a part of the School of Sciences BS PhD program, which enables you to begin your graduate studies while you're still an undergraduate and actually get a little bit ahead of the curve when you're trying to get your graduate degree, because I'm interested in pursuing a career in research. I've done research across multiple labs at RPI, across multiple departments. I've done research in biochemistry, biophysics, biomedical engineering, a little bit of chemical engineering, and also molecular biology. I've worked on several projects ranging from studying the effects of pressure on structural elements of proteins to optimizing the growth of co-cultures of bacteria to increase yield of medical components and active components and drugs, to my current project in the Royer lab where I'm planning on doing my PhD. I'm actually now studying the biosensors of cell division, where I'm looking at how the different nutrient conditions in the environment will affect levels of transcription factors and start factors in cells and cause them to decide whether or not they want to grow more or to begin to divide. And that's really important for us because, as you know, if you have uncontrolled cell division, you can get disease states such as cancer in humans or something like muscular dystrophy or diabetes. So through this project, I'm doing kind of like Dr. Roy mentioned, 2-photon high-resolution microscopy where we can analyze proteins in cells that have been tagged with a fluorescent molecule to kind of look at how the levels of these proteins change across cell sizes, across nutrient conditions, and also when we remove different genes from the cells as well.
Great. Well, thank you all for those introductions. Now, this is the first time we're doing this online. I mean, normally I can look and see people in the room and see the hands go up with questions. we have a lot of questions, and we really would like to answer them. So I'm seeing some questions pop up, and I will act as traffic cop. So the first question is, how much is there collaboration between mechanical engineering and materials engineering? So Dan, if I throw you that question, it's kind of a softball, right? Because you work with people in mechanical engineering all the time. And then if we could ask Sabrina, if she's had interactions with mechanical engineering students in her research project.
I'll answer it generally. One of the things that I really like about RPI and the research environment here is that you could reach out to folks, and if you think someone's skill set would really benefit your project, folks are happy to be part of that project. And so my additive project right now is with 2 other folks from mechanical engineering and another person from manufacturing center. So I would say maybe not, I'm not going to answer how much, but I'll say collaboration is, there's a lot of collaboration in the sense that, well, let me say it this way. Every time I've approached someone about collaboration, they've said yes. So I'm not going to try and put a number on it.
All right, so thank you. Now, Sabrina, what has your experience been working with students from other departments?
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially with the main department. I think that with the research project I was on specifically, there was a lot of connection and overlap. So they were working on like producing the product, and then I was doing analysis. So you had to be able to work together, and even just performing the actual testing. I worked with a couple students in mechanical engineering to work with the testing and keeping everything flow. So there's definitely the overlap. Even in my course,
so thank you, Sabrina. And I think some of us experienced some sort of momentary glitches, so we can all be patient with each other on that. But I think your message came across loud and clear, Sabrina. So thank you. So the next question is, and I think this is just a quick question for Professor Bennett. The name of the course again that was required prior to working on, and the question was research projects at RPI, but you meant specifically research projects in your data center. Can you expand on that, Dr.
So
Bennett?
in general, there's no specific requirements to do that. But for my lab in particular, we like you to take a class in data analytics of some type. And then we offer classes where you do almost like an internship and solve real problems for real people and do the experience like Jose was talking about. He did that. So the class that I was talking about was Introduction to Data Mathematics. And it's a course, the only requirement is calculus and computer science 1. But there's other courses that work as well. So that's just one example. But we just ask you to take that one class before you start research so you know some data analytics from your coursework that you can apply. But you can do this as early as your freshman year, right? Because it doesn't have much of a prerequisite.
So the next question is, thank you very much, Dr. Bennett. The next question is, and actually, so before I go on to the next question, let me just amplify on a comment that Dr. Bennett made, which is that there is, in general, no specific prerequisites for doing research. It makes tremendous sense in the example that Professor Bennett gave. But in general, what professors are looking for most is enthusiasm, ideas, and just a willingness to roll one's sleeves up and do interesting things. So the next question is, what professors do you recommend we contact if we are interested in researching renewable energy? And there's probably about a list of 20 people. And rather than trying to run through that list now, particularly with the limited bandwidth we have on the internet at the moment, the fact I may cut in and out, what I've done is share my email address there so that whoever asks this question, Alexander L, or anybody else is interested in the answer, I can come up and I can point you to a website which would help you with that. In fact, I can write that down right now. Cephas at rpi.edu. That's our Center for Future Energy Systems. That will give you a good introduction, at least. So the next question I think would be best posed to Jose. How would one become involved in research from freshman year in computer science research specifically? I don't know if you did research in your freshman year, Jose, but actually, then I'm going to ask the question to each of our students, starting with Jose. How did you get into undergraduate research?
Sure. So I unfortunately can't give you the best answer for this because I transferred in. So I didn't take my freshman year at RPI. So that's very sad, and I'm sorry about that. But generally speaking, from what I understand at RPI, they like most professors before you hop on a research project, they like you to have like your basics in order. So that's generally your CS1 and your data structures, because that's where you can really start doing some active development and to that capacity. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's impossible to get research done in your freshman year. I know of people who've done it, but generally speaking, they want you to get that out of the way before you kind of get started. And was there like another part to that question? Yeah. But
I think that was
maybe Jose.
yeah. But aside from that,
I think that was a great
could you
answer.
comment? Did you ever do ARCOS? Could you talk about ARCOS? Do you know about it, or should I?
yeah, so I did do ARCOS for one semester. That's actually a really cool opportunity. Thank you for bringing it up. So ARCOS stands for Rensselaer Center for Open Source, and it is an entirely kind of student-run and obviously with faculty-led, student-run open source club. Per se, not really a club because you get credit for it, but essentially students pitch and run several different projects here at RPI that kind of vary in size from something that you like either just started and you really want to like just a random cool idea that you might have, or like very large applications that actually see school-wide use, such as Submiti, which is our auto grading platform for computer science courses, and Yax, which is more relevantly used across campus for course scheduling for students. So essentially, I don't think there's any prereqs for that, but at any point you can take ARCOS and do that for basically no matter where your experience is in computer science, you can hop on a project and there's always something for you to do, whether it be like do research into like which direction can the project go, project management, software development, front end, back end, whatever you really want to like involve yourself in, there's space for you.
So thank you, Jose. Thank you very much. So Sabrina, could you tell us how you got into undergraduate research?
So similar to Jose, I did not do research my freshman year, but when I was decided that I was interested in pursuing it, I reached out to the professors in my department. I was aware of which ones did research, so I looked into the professors first and see what type of projects they have. So from the RPI website, you can typically find the professors and like what they work on outside
So
of
Carlton,
courses
thank you,
they
Sabrina.
teach.
Carlton,
And
what
from
was your
there, I
experience in
contacted
getting
one
into
project
research?
that I was interested in,
just to add on to what Sabrina
and
was
kind of
saying,
found the best one
for
that
anyone
fit
who's
me
interested, you can also
and
look
they
up
needed work
the
with.
department, your specific department, and then there's always a list of all the faculty members. And for each faculty member, some of them have websites, and for those that don't, they also have selected publications that you can look through to see exactly what each faculty member is researching currently. And so reaching out to them that way through their email would probably be the best way to talk to them. But for me, actually what I did, and I think this is a really good idea for anyone who's trying to determine which school they want to go to, I actually reached out to the department that I was interested in every school that I applied to. And I asked, can I meet with someone just to discuss research opportunities at the Institute? And, at RPI, I came up, it was during my spring break. It was also during RPI spring break. And I met with one of the biophysics professors, Dr. Makatatsu. And, he was on spring break. He was going to a conference in 5 days that he needed to prepare for. He was also grading a bunch of reports. And to top it off, the night I flew in, there was a snowstorm. There was about 3 feet of snow on the ground. And he still agreed to come in and meet with me. He clearly didn't have the time to do so, but he still met with me for about an hour to discuss research that I was interested in. He gave me a tour of the facilities in the Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies. It's a really top-notch, state-of-the-art facility with basically all the scientific toys you could ever ask for doing anything in biology, chemistry, biomedical engineering, you name it. And so, that really kind of showed me that I really wanted to go to RPI because I was interested in doing research at RPI. At other schools, I went to Johns Hopkins and they just kind of shuttled me off to, of all people, the graduate admissions counselor when I was an undergraduate, and that person couldn't answer my question. So, I was like, well, you're the #1 funded research institute in the country, but you really don't give any options for undergraduates. So, RPI, we really do mean it. You have so many opportunities here to involve research. And so these people, you make these connections, and then, freshman year, I was able to get involved in research, and I was the only person on my project. I was supervised by a postdoc, but otherwise the project was completely mine. And so it kind of took off from there.
So Carlton, thank you very much for your answer. Now, I think the next two questions are sort of linked. In addition to the example we've heard in the Insight Lab, where there is a prerequisite class, but in general, are there recommended or prerequisite classes to do undergraduate research? So I'm going to ask Professor Royer first and Professor Lewis to describe the situation in their own departments. So Professor Royer, if you could answer the two questions from Caitlin and Seymour, which are kind of linked. So, Professor Lewis, what is the situation in material science and engineering? And I think you are familiar with engineering departments more broadly.
Yeah.
So, if you could perhaps
Yeah, I mean, I think
departments.
I think the concept that was laid out in the previous answer is a sound one. Some first semester, there's a lot of acclimatization that has to happen. That would be pretty difficult, in my personal opinion. Having a base class in the area that you want to work in, of course, would be helpful. But my approach is to ask students, well, what can you do? What are you good at? And if those answers aren't really there, if they don't know, exactly what they want to do, I'll ask the students, what do you want to get better at? And, what skills do you want to develop? And I know I asked Sabrina that question when we were together. So I think, having a foundational class is good, but also have an idea in your own mind about what skills you want to develop. And then we could figure out how to do that. And it'll be slow starting, but you'll build that skill set and you'll gradually become a contributor. And I'd say just stick with it, keep going, don't give up. Research is a tough gig.
All right, so thank you all for those answers. So the next question is, can we do neuroscience research if we are an engineer major? And I'll ask my colleagues to help me with the second half of the question. But in general, we have very, very low disciplinary boundaries at Rensselaer. So if you were in one department and want to do research in another department, the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, there's no sort of reason that can't be done. There's a tremendous amount of collaboration and faculty between different departments, sometimes very different departments. Professor Bennett and I, for example, have worked on a project together which integrated data analytics, and which is clearly her expertise, and microelectronics manufacturing, which is mine. So there's an enormous collaboration. So you won't be pigeonholed. If you say, gee, I'm in this department, I want to do research in that department, there'll be no barrier whatsoever. So yes, we do have research in neuroscience and neural engineering. Professor Ryan, I think you might be most familiar with that. Could you speak to that specifically? So that is great. That is great. So maybe I could ask Carlton, then Sabrina, then Jose, whether you've interacted with in your research activities with students or faculty in other departments. So Carlton?